You cannot go to the bathroom alone anymore. You walk to the kitchen, they follow. You move 2 feet to the left, they notice. You so much as shift your weight toward the door, and something in them goes off like an alarm. And if you actually leave the room, the sound that comes out of them would make you think something genuinely terrible has happened. Nothing has happened. You went to get a glass of water. But to your baby, you disappeared. You disappeared. I want to tell you exactly why that hits them so hard. Because once you understand what's going on developmentally, this behavior stops being exhausting, or at least it stops being confusing and starts making a strange kind of sense. Let's go back a few months. When your baby was 2 or 3 months old, out of sight genuinely meant out of existence. Not metaphorically, literally. Literally. Concept that objects and people continue to exist when you can't see them. That's not built in. That has to develop. And it develops slowly across the first year as the prefrontal cortex matures and a baby's understanding of the world deepens. The moment they start to grasp that you are a permanent thing, that you exist somewhere even when they can't see you, is also the exact moment they realize you can leave, and that you are not currently here, and that they don't know when you're coming back. Object permanence, which sounds like a purely cognitive milestone, turns out to have a very specific emotional consequence. The more your baby understands that you exist, the more they understand that you can go, and the more that terrifies them. So the clinginess you're experiencing right now isn't a regression. It's not a sign that something went wrong. It's the direct result of your baby's brain making a significant leap forward. They found you, and now they're not letting go. John Bowlby, the psychiatrist who developed attachment theory, spent decades studying exactly this behavior. He called it proximity seeking, and he found that it isn't a sign of insecurity or overdependence. It's the opposite. It's a sign that a baby has formed a clear, specific, strong attachment to a caregiver, and that they are doing exactly what evolution designed them to do, keeping that caregiver close. Because for most of human history, a baby who lost sight of their caregiver was in genuine danger. The alarm your baby sounds when you leave the room, that alarm kept babies alive for 200,000 years. It's working as intended. Mary Ainsworth, a developmental psychologist who built on Bowlby's work, conducted a series of landmark studies in the 1970s called the strange situation. She observed how babies responded when their caregivers briefly left and returned. And what she found challenged a lot of what people assumed about independence and attachment. The babies who were most secure, the ones who had the most reliable, responsive caregivers, were not the babies who didn't care when mom left. They were the babies who cried when she left and calmed quickly when she returned. Crying wasn't weakness. It was trust. They cried because they knew she mattered, and they calmed because they knew she'd come back. Ainsworth called these babies securely attached. And in study after study, securely attached babies grew into more confident, more independent, more socially competent children than babies who seemed unbothered by separation. I want to let that sit for a second. The baby who falls apart when you leave the room is more likely to become the independent child than the one who didn't seem to need you. Because independence isn't built by being left. It's built by being found. Over and over again, reliably, until the baby's nervous system learns, at a cellular level, that the world is safe enough to explore. You are teaching your baby that lesson every single time you come back. Now, there's a specific game that does something genuinely therapeutic for this phase. You already know it. Peekaboo. I know it seems too simple, but here's what's actually happening when you play it. You disappear behind your hands, behind a blanket, around a corner. Your baby experiences the alarm, the confusion, the where did you go? And then you come back. Over and over, in a safe, controlled, playful context, your baby practices the experience of you leaving and returning. Their brain files it. You left. You came back. You left. You came back. And slowly, that pattern builds a kind of faith. Peekaboo is essentially a very gentle exposure therapy for separation. Delivered through laughter, there are also a few practical things that help more than others during this stretch. The first is narrating your departures, even tiny ones. I'm going to the kitchen. I'll be right back. Your baby doesn't understand the words yet, but they're learning the pattern of you announcing your exits. And over time, that announcement becomes a cue that departure isn't permanent. Second is making reunions warm and specific. When you come back after even a few minutes, acknowledge it. I'm back. Here I am. Every return that feels like a real return reinforces the core message your baby needs. You come back. The third thing is to avoid sneaking out. It feels kinder. It isn't. Babies who are suddenly surprised by a caregiver's absence tend to protest more intensely and take longer to settle than babies who saw the departure happen. Predictable exits are less frightening than disappearances. Even to a baby who can't understand what you're saying. Here's what I want you to hold on to. This phase, the following, the clinging, the absolute refusal to let you be a separate person for even a moment, it has a ceiling. It peaks somewhere between 9 and 12 months for most babies. And then, slowly, something shifts. They start to move away from you. Not because they need you less, but because they've internalized enough of your presence to carry it with them. That's the goal. Not a baby who doesn't need you. A baby who has been needed to so reliably, so consistently, that your presence lives inside them, even when you're not in the room. That's what all of this is building. Follow this channel if you want to keep understanding what your baby is going through at every stage. The behavior that worries you most often turns out to be the sign of something going exactly right. We'll see you in the next one.